Now you could imagine going into lots and lots of detail here, especially if you're an engineer. You're looking at this and saying, wow, well, I mean, that's a nice start and everything, but clearly you've got a long way to go in terms of working out the actual mechanical fastening features that come between these different parts. There are definitely molding issues that we still haven't worked through. But what I'm trying to show you here is that this process is a gradual process of refinement. So I put out what I know, and then I start gradually adding things as I learn them, as I make decisions. And then over time, you may reach a point where you want to just start over from scratch, actually. You've learned a lot from the modeling process, and you want to start over. But at this point, I think we've learned what we need to learn from this model, and I'm ready to move on. But I want to add some fun details to this before we finish everything up. So first, let's open up our master model. And one thing I want to add is the cables that can come through this and out the back. That's just going to be a fun detail to include. So on the top plane, which should be right there at the intersection between the base and the leg, I'm going to create a sketch. And then I'm going to grab my circle tool and create a circle right in the middle, and let's call that 0.25 inches, a quarter of an inch in diameter, something like that, just big enough to bring a cable through. And I'll exit that sketch. Now that's actually all I'm going to need here, so let's close that back up, save it. And then we'll open up this next part. Let's open this in its own window. So here we are in our leg component, and there are a couple of things we're going to want to change before we go any further. It looks like there may be a couple of extra sketches here that we don't need for the moment. I'll delete those. I don't know where those came from. There we go. And now I'll go to my Direct Editing tab. I'm going to combine this piece with that piece because we never merged those together. We just put them in place but didn't combine them. So let's add those together. Now we have one chunk of metal. And now we want to blow a hole through that. So let's go to our Features, Extrude Cut, and I'm just going to use that newly imported circle sketch from the master model. And I'll go through all in the other direction, and that should take care of it. Hit OK. We now have a hole that goes straight through. We can use that to thread our cables through. And just so we don't saw those cables in half, let's come in here with a chamfer tool and just hit this with a quick chamfer. We'll call this a 45-degree 4mm chamfer. That looks fine. There we go. Nice, clean, and easy like. Perfect. Close that up. Go back to our main assembly. Now we have a place for the cables to come down, and we need them to be able to come out the base. So let's open that base. And once again, that sketch will have been imported for us. And I believe this is all one solid body already. So let's select that sketch and do an extruded cut. We'll say through all on this one. And in direction 2, we're going to need to go through all as well. Hit OK, and that ought to do it. One other thing, though, we're going to need for our cable to be able to exit the back of this guy. So let's go to the front plane, create a sketch, and I'm going to look normal to that plane so it's really easy to see. And then I'll draw a slot. So I'm going to grab my slot tool and do a slot straight up like so, just like that. Let's make sure that our diameter is a quarter inch so it matches that other one. And then I'll make sure also that that comes up, I don't know, I'm just going to eyeball it because I don't know the exact dimension. A lot of times when I'm working, if I don't know a dimension, I don't add a dimension. That will remind me later that I didn't really know how tall this should be, so it's not in any particular place. If I add a dimension to it, then I'm going to assume there was a reason that I added that dimension. So let's do an extrude cut and just blow this out the back. And I think the back, yep, there we go. The back is this direction toward my left. So I'll say through all in that direction and hit OK. And that should work pretty well. So now we have a hole that comes straight through. And it looks like I accidentally made this too wide, right? So let's change that original sketch radius. Right now it's set to radius of 6.35, and I really want that to be the diameter, so I'm just going to set that to over 2. So we divide that in half and click the update button here right up at the top. Much better. That is exactly what we needed. Now we have something much more better. Also, this edge, another knife edge that might cut our cable, I'm going to round that off. Let's give it a 5mm radius right in there. There we go. And that should be all we need on that. Let's close this up, go back to our assembly, and now we have a cable path coming straight down the legs, straight down the base, and out the back. But there's another detail I want to add, and that's a little foot that we can add to the bottom of this after we've run the cable through. And let's add that in the next video.